Tonight's final story from the front lines of Able is especially timely, picking up as it does when we last met in this Shrine Auditorium, and then directly addressing the global engram that ensued. Then again, while enough has been said about the pandemic itself, the most destructive element was not a virus so much as the attendant societal psychotic break. In that regard, this story is also timeless, drawn straight from the universal booklet of living LRH provided as the rock-bottom technology to salvage a culture and create a true brotherhood of man. I'm of course referring to the way to happiness, and more specifically, LRH's expressed intention for the 21 precepts to reverse cultural trends of violence and crime. Or as he wrote, all you have to do is keep that booklet flowing into society like gentle oil spread upon the raging sea. The calm will flow outward and outward. And here is a story in perfect demonstration of exactly that. Portland, Oregon. It's where underlying passion and prejudice tear away at decency and civility until the city erupts in anarchy and rage. Rioters stormed downtown Portland for more than 100 consecutive nights, while a violent crime wave in the inner city breaks all local records. But standing right in the heart of downtown as a beacon of sanity is our ideal launch point for Portland Operation Calm. Phase 1 begins with mobilizing teams to accomplish the first major target, namely, saturate riot hotspots within a full mile radius of the org with a way to happiness. Given pandemic restrictions limit face-to-face and door-to-door distribution, the org orchestrates a massive mailing. So even as the riots raged, the org was all hands on deck with more than 100 staff and volunteers working to deliver a message urging Portland citizens to live together in peace. Hour after hour, they assemble packages for every individual address, inclusive of a response card for additional booklets. All told, you are looking at more than 3 tons of materials to infuse a ravaged city with nearly 44,000 copies of The Way to Happiness, all in a single postal blitz. Yet it's what next happens that enters this story into the pages of Portland's legend and lore. Because call it magic, call it divine intervention. The very next day, after booklets arrive in residents' hands, nightly riots don't just let up, they stop cold. That was just phase 1 under the heading of emergency triage. That was just step 1 under the heading of emergency triage, because there's yet remained the residual fallout of skyrocketing urban crime. And so, no sooner pandemic restrictions lifted, the org schedules a series of open houses for the entire community. The objective? Enlighten and inspire full adoption of the 21 precepts by pivotal community groups, and so spark a happiness movement at the grassroots. By way of example, black men in training. They are all about steering at-risk youth away from Portland's East Side gangs, and they are soon adopting The Way to Happiness as their own, including a personalized custom cover, at which point the 21 precepts also become an integral part of their youth curriculum. And so the pattern repeats with adoption on behalf of violence prevention, gang intervention, juvenile reform, on and on, as The Way to Happiness is soon coursing across Portland's inner communities through more than a dozen partners. Whereupon the org launches Operation Calm Phase 3, and specifically to bring The Way to Happiness to every Portland resident in the name of a city-wide moral resurgence. Hence, teams head out in force for hand-to-hand distribution wherever Portlanders intersect. The city's annual Grand Floral Parade, where volunteers bestow 200 booklets an hour, personally enlightening citizens one-on-one, and in emphasis of safeguard and improve your environment. There's more at Portland's signature blues festival, where memories of the riots still linger, thus underscoring the positive version of the golden rule. There's more again at the weekly arts and crafts market, with the overriding message to set a good example. And so it rolled street by street through historic Old Town and every other block and byroad of the city center, until staff and volunteers distribute more than 120,000 copies of The Way to Happiness, thereby reaching 100% of downtown Portland residents, whereafter, and against all odds, Portland hits a turning point, with headline news proclaiming a dramatic drop in shootings and homicides, all while total crime plunges below pre-pandemic levels. And yes, that's calming a raging sea, with The Way to Happiness for this New Year's celebration 2024. For all that, however, there is still another word due on April, and it follows from that momentous phrase, global presence. Because take the kind of stories you just saw in representation of on-the-ground action, multiply it out across the rest of this planet, and here's the worldwide tally. To begin, there's The Way to Happiness, now inspiring a moral resurgence among populations speaking virtually every language on Earth, even a new African dialect, which, by a sweeping turn of the globe, puts the precepts in play across 193 nations, and where a new partnership was forged every 9 hours. Combine it all, and it's a grand total of 140 million booklets coursing to the ends of Earth. Our Narconon saga is just as pervasive. Look no further than LRH Drug Rehab, powering a delivery system that generated 1.2 million hours of life-salvaging help, all of which drives yet another program step to completion every 30 minutes. And that global network is also ever expanding, with new centers arising on the western coast of Taiwan, on the outskirts of Tokyo, a first for Japan, all while in just 2 weeks, a new continental center will cut a ribbon and open her doors in South Africa. Finally, there's Applied Scholastics, now marking a golden anniversary, and their 50-year legacy is recognized by no less than the United States Senate for ensuring quality education for the nation's students. Well, in testament to that, worldwide, new schools, centers, and groups continuously arise across the realm of academia, more than 700 in all just since 2020, making for a network 2,500 strong, and that's how Applied Scholastics empowered 64 million students with tools for learning. Combine it all, and that's able bringing LRH solutions on behalf of more than 200 million for this New Year's celebration 2024. But even so, there is one final statement to complete the Abel saga for tonight. Moreover, this is the one that comes from the whole tableau of Abel's stories. And although the voices are many, the message is the same. Because this is what it's like to come to work every day and salvage the eternity of beings.
The way to happiness our road to making it a peaceful world for everybody. We have seen communities that we have driven back to.
Presuming populations are relatively literate, moral, crime-free, and drug-free, well, the next make-break point for a civilization is prosperity. Factually, it's another crucial step toward mass clearing, and especially when you consider it's a subject that concerns every inhabitant of Earth. Or as LH describes, work is the major role of our existence, whether we like it or not. If we don't like it, we don't like life. Even more, lose a man his income or his job, and you find him in a bad mental condition. Needless to say, the proofs of that were evident everywhere these past years, what with total shutdowns of industry and commerce, handouts that wiped out entire workforces, and all the ramifications thereof. Why go on? You see it every day. But just as LRH gave us first dynamic auditing technology to increase the survival of the individual as an individual, so too, he gave us third dynamic administrative technology to increase the survival of groups. Moreover, it's extended to the world at large through the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, otherwise known as WISE. And to once again remind you, here is how it all rolls out. WISE was charged by LRH to disseminate his technology for group prosperity and sanity. Its membership comprises professionals who adopt and apply admin technology to their own endeavors. But WISE further enrolls and trains members as consultants capable of troubleshooting and expanding any venture, no matter the ambition, no matter the industry. Simultaneously, higher level training is provided by a worldwide array of Hubbard Colleges of Administration who graduate students as official Hubbard Administrative Specialists. In combination then, WISE employs LRH admin technology for sanity and prosperity on the third and fourth dynamics, which in turn impacts all other dynamics and so fosters global survival. Tonight's opening story from the universe of WISE recalls the age-old proverb, "A man's house is his castle." It resonates all over this world, expressing so incisively not only a right to a roof over one's head, but independence, happiness, and prosperity. Yet given the quicksands of financial markets, that vision of the castle all too often becomes like a sand castle washed out to sea. New South Wales, Australia. In the mid-20th century, the great Australian dream was born, a dream synonymous with possessing that castle of one's own. But a 21st century housing shortage and runaway inflation create a crisis, pricing young families out of the market, which is why 3 out of 4 will tell you they're ready to give up the dream altogether. But now enter home-building titans Johnny and Mike Hibbard. That these identical twins could be mistaken for Thor is apt, since both picked up a hammer from their father at age 15, ultimately becoming third-generation owners of the family business Hibbard Homes. The brothers found Scientology in our golden age, and today Johnny is clear and Mike is new OT5. While to the greater point of this story, they were introduced to WISE in 2019, and from where this story begins. Hibbard headquarters lie north of Sydney in the coastal city of Coffs Harbour. The twins will tell you they specialize in reviving the great Australian dream with the valuable final product of affordable, quality family houses of exceptional value. All, of course, which runs headstrong into an industry notorious for running out of control, as in over budget and over time. But the Hibbards wield the power of LRH admin tech, beginning with that fundamental equation, having equals control, and hence they compile nearly 100 pages of hat tags for the most critical on-site posts. Project manager responsible for entire developments adhering to the 3 inviolate rules: stay on time, under budget, and to quality standards. Then there's construction manager overseeing some 20 houses at a time, stressing adherence to Hibbard's detailed specifications. While in this visual age, the brothers further create a series of staff padding videos blocking out company policy and the basics. Construction flow lines mapped from initial design to certificate of occupancy, quality control checklisted for every point of inspection, and needless to say, valuable final products of happy customers and a purchased home. Additional videos cover every post and function, all of which goes into play with an in-house training program for every employee and personally supervised by the Hibbards. But where it all coalesces regarding duties and responsibilities is when they clear every manager on their respective products across every division of the company or board. And here's what it looks like in action. Planning from building footprint to full architectural drawings, engineering with 5 interlocking schematics naming every detail from heating and air conditioning to the last electrical plug. Design including selection from 22 collections of Australian brick and in 88 colors, so creating variety in every development. Estimation, itemizing exact quantities and calculations for everything from construction materials to finishes and appliances. And project management, including all requisite infrastructure of roads, water, and power. Well, all told, you were looking at an operation boasting no less than 20 in-house trades and professions, and with the entire Hibbard fleet next rolling out across coastal communities, this is building the Australian dream from the ground up. Developments typically rise on raw Australian bush or farmland, graded to perfection at 160 cubic meters per day. Next, with all Hibbard construction trades harmonized and synchronized, you are looking at weekly production of 220 tons of concrete poured, another 11,000 square feet of corrugated steel sheet roofing, 24,000 bricks laid and mortared, 3,000 feet of timber, and 25,000 square feet of drywall, whereupon comes the grand reveal of a new Hibbard home ready for turnkey handover to first-time homeowners, and yes, literally wrapped in a bow. And that's the story of how Hibbard completes entire developments, 90 houses at a time, every 5 months, not only at twice the industry speed, but every house 20% larger than the industry standard at 20% lower cost to home buyers. But even still, where the Hibbards go next level is application of the LRH policy on exchange in abundance with value beyond expectations. Hence, their guarantee on every home, complete with a 24-hour emergency repair line, is a feature unheard of in the industry, but Hibbard's secret is servicemen trained as jacks of all trades. Thus, no matter the repair, Hibbard's is there in a flash, free of charge. Moreover, the service runs at 100%, at which point the only phrase you need to know is word of mouth. Because with their reputation spreading from region to region, the brothers are literally all over New South Wales, expanding from 4 cities in the company's first 50 years to no less than 13 towns and cities since joining Wise, making for nearly 1,000 dream homes for Australian families in these last 4 years alone. So no, you need not wonder why headlines proclaim the sky is the limit for Hibbard homes, because that's LRH out in tech, tripling expansion even right through the pandemic. And yes, that's Wise making dreams an actuality for this New Year's celebration 2024. If such as admin tech applied to a single industry affecting a single segment of society, what about an industry affecting the entire populace? And in fact, an essential to an entire nation. It's an industry built on 5,000-year-old formulas captured on everything from ancient Sumerian tablets and Egyptian papyrus, even the how-to manual of a 9th century alchemist. Said formulas effectively hastened Europe's transition out of the Dark Ages, while in our modern age they are so integral to everyday living that their loss can once again change the course of history. Such is the universe of cleanliness and beauty. Hungary. Back-to-back recessions and economic stagnation plague domestic industry, all while foreign-owned multinational conglomerates now account for 50% of Hungary's economic production. Hence, Hungarian household brands, beloved for generations, vanishing from the shelves, and companies going extinct. Companies like Florin, one of Hungary's big three manufacturers since the 1950s, yet now teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. But reviving Hungarian industry is entrepreneurial wizard Attila Barta. He originally discovered Scientology through Wise, while today he's both an admin tech specialist and a superpower completion. This saga opens in the southern city of Szeged, where upon learning of Florin's imminent demise, Attila determines to buy the company and revive it from the dead with LRH admin tech. And in evidence, this is Florin today. It's all driven by Attila's abiding purpose to boost the Hungarian economy through production of Hungarian-made brands. What especially distinguishes Florin from other manufacturers is their laboratory for in-house product development using the highest quality skin-friendly ingredients, such as collagen extracts, seed buckthorn oil, and regionally sourced beeswax. Mixtures are rigorously tested for chemical balance and purity from allergens to achieve the optimal recipe, and therein lies the essence of the company's unique proprietary formulas, not to mention its award-winning products, in this case, Florin's all-natural, toxin-free personal care line. But the formula that catalyzes Florin into a powerhouse Hungarian company is LRH Administrative Technology, an org board honed to assembly line efficiency, a communication system for speed of particle flow, and statistics for precision condition formula application. Inculcation begins with seminars to instant hat employees on admin basics, 3-basket system, completed staff work, and battle plans. Moreover, considering the technical know-how of Florin operations, hats are the key ingredient. Machine engineer, lab technician, health in charge, no less than 66 hats in total, all of which staff assimilate through in-house theory training, followed by practical apprenticeship with supervised factory floor application. And when all elements combine, this is high-volume manufacturing. Water purification using reverse osmosis for filtration down to 1/10,000th of a micron, industrial mixing and processing requiring 135 degrees of heat variation, blending compounds for flexible quantities from 5 liters to 10,000, bottling on an automated line customized and configured to fill another container every 1.5 seconds, labeling for household, hospital, or industrial grade products, and packaging for a dozen Florin brands in a single shift. Altogether, you are looking at a factory synthesizing everything from Florin-formulated household cleaners to every type of body care, including an allergen-free line and a plant-based cosmetic line, not to mention the revival of cherished legacy brands for the home and the family, so filling supermarket shelves with Florin's go-to household and personal care products, and all Hungarian-made. But once again, enter that damn pandemic. with global supply lines shutting down and export nations hoarding their own supplies, there's suddenly a national shortage of the most in-demand product, sanitizer. While the government looks for new import suppliers, Attila sets forth with another plan, immediately reformulating his hospital-grade sanitizer for home use and using all Hungarian ingredients. Whereupon he's next contacting national officials in charge of pandemic response. His proposal? Fast-track approval for construction of a new Florin facility, and Florin will supply the entire country with sanitizer. At which point Florin is officially designated an essential services provider by no less than the Hungarian Ministry of Defense. Attila immediately reconfigures his factory lines to exclusively manufacture sanitizers on an emergency basis, boosting manpower with 3 8-hour shifts for a 24/7 operation to manufacture 165,000 liters every day. Next, he gets that new factory into construction to accommodate all other Florin products. And so it went simultaneously, with Attila driving sanitizer across the nation, east, west, north, and south, into the supermarkets for personal consumption, into the schools to keep them open, into every hospital to keep them sanitary, and even military facilities to keep them secure, until it's not just 5.5 million liters, and nor is it just headline news proclaiming Florin for averting a national disaster, but with restrictions finally lifted, it's a grand opening ceremony for that new factory. While in appreciation for his service to the country, it's inaugurated by a Secretary of State and Member of Parliament. At which point, Florin accomplishment goes positively transcended, with awards and recognitions for business super brands, 100 best businesses, Factory of the Year, and the #1 Hungarian company for household products. And that's the story of how LRH Admin Tech not only drove Florin expansion 350 times over, but it's also why Attila next entered Hungarian Parliament itself to receive the nation's Value and Quality Grand Prize. And yes, that's wise as essential to a nation on this New Year's celebration 2024.
Florin, 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 Florin.
Our final account from the world of wise reminds us that LRH administrative fundamentals are exactly that. Fundamental to all operating principles in this universe and the immutable laws of life itself. So, while national economists might explain this or that financial crisis in terms of trade deficits or devaluation, LRH provided a philosophy of administration, and it addresses such matters as the anatomy of all organizations and basic purposes of beings. Accordingly, these things are universal and inviolate. And when one commands the upper level tools of LRH Admin Tech, one can rescue any business, an entire nation, or even a civilization. Such is the province of wise consultants and Hubbard Colleges of Administration, and here is the manifest proof of what they can do. Ecuador. She was never the model of a robust economy, but when a perfect economic storm blew the bottom out of commerce, gross domestic productivity sank like a stone. Then, facing horrific hyperinflation, she even swapped out her currency for an almighty American dollar. And albeit the climate became relatively stable, well, that's when the pandemic hit, driving her into a new financial hurricane. But this is Jorge Vela and Gallo Arboleda, co-founders of Ecuador's Hubbard College of Administration. It stands in the capital's commercial heart and boasts a team of some 36 admin tech specialists with almost 200 years of bolstering Ecuadorian industry. And this is their workaday world. Clients are typically owners and CEOs of homegrown enterprises, everything from textile manufacturers to graphic designers. They just as typically discover admin basics through introductory seminars, in this case ARC, to strengthen management-employee relationships, not to mention customer relations. Whereafter entrepreneurs and executives find seats in the college academy for a tailored regimen of courses, from organizational basics for channeling a purpose through hell and high water, to ethics for business survival for a profitable course through adverse winds, and statistical management for tracking trends through any weather. And that, in an Ecuadorian nutshell, is how 11,000 graduates enter their nation's competitive base. But it's through on-site consultation that HCA Ecuador affects an entirely new climate of productivity, and this is what it looks like. ILE is a top provider of spices, teas, and condiments, but their emergency trend is unrelenting. So HCA Ecuador initiates a factory seminar on the conditions formulas to boost personal productivity. And when combined with measurable statistics across spice production lines, profits soar 4 times over. Mundo Graphics somehow survived the last 30 years, but more than a third of company employees are unproductive. So HCA introduces personality tests to weed out the unqualified and flanks it with hatting for the rest. Check sheets for printing floor procedures, reach and withdraw on a web press, and speed drills on print setups, whereupon Mundo summarily doubles production and efficiency. Inalexa is Ecuador's premier snack food company, but its organizational mishmash is utterly unappetizing. So the personnel manager implements statistics and flow lines for an 800-man operation, and expansion likewise doubles, and in only 12 months. RFS Construction does luxury apartments, but what they don't do is market their product. Consequently, HCA presents LRH Basics on promotion, thereby fueling product demand and multiplying new customer inquiries by a factor of 3. Then again, there's Monte Rosas. They do flower cultivation in this worldwide capital of roses. But given statistics are a foreign concept, HCA delineates checklists for valuable final products, after which Monte Rosas hits maximum capacity and quadruples production. There's more at Equigenera Orchids, where things were anything but flourishing. Hence, HCA applies correct conditions, and Equigenera is now the world's largest exporter, with expansion running 40 times over. So yes, that's how HCA Ecuador calmed a tempestuous climate by driving LRH admin technology into more than 5,000 Ecuadorian organizations, or a full 6% of the economic base. And if you wonder what else HCA Ecuador is cheering about, well, it's because no less than Ecuador's Office of the President has just issued an official recognition of gratitude for bolstering Ecuadorian industry to new heights of productivity. And yes, that's why stabilizing an entire national economy on this New Year's 2024. Beyond the representative examples you've just seen, there yet remains the global spreadsheet from WISE. And bearing in mind application of LRH admin tech represents far more than mere better business practices, the cumulative sum unfolds as follows. WISE members earning industry awards wherever they ply their trade. Excellence in luxury design, distinction in culinary arts, leadership in information technology, foremost real estate, dynamic events and entertainment, one after another in an unending cascade of success. In fact, out of 32 million US companies, 32 WISE companies have now earned a spot on the list of 5,000 fastest growing enterprises, a distinction that quite literally makes each a 1 in a million success. Moreover, WISE members stamp their brand of expertise on every imaginable job description, better than 1,300 professions in all. Then there is everything WISE represents through engines of commerce and markets of trade, with admin tech specialists and consultants at work across 32 nations, making for a new company now adopting LRH admin tech every hour of every day, and so totaling more than 40,000 companies now employing the tools for third dynamic survival. And when you sum all up trending graphs across global production grids, it's an exponential surge in prosperity, with no less than 3 million professionals entering the world of LRH administrative technology for this New Year's celebration 2024.
Hip, hip, ho.
Again, however, there still remains a final statement requisite to the universe of WISE, and it returns us to the ultimate ends of admin tech delivery. Because this is the statement that invariably reads, up the conditions they go, until comes to view the bridge itself, whereupon comes the real bottom line of WISE, which is nothing less than eternal freedom.
Without LRH admin tech, I don't know where either of my companies would be. I mean, I have gone through major situations on this planet in our auto repair shop. We weathered the storm through that, and we came out of it bigger because we have the tools.
If all you've seen thus far is about creating a climate where mankind can survive, we now come to what lies beyond just mere survival, namely infinite spiritual freedom. Such is the province of those who hold wide the gates of our bridge, those who audit in every neighborhood, those who extend our help to distant lands and the proverbial rim of our world. Those, in short, who dedicate themselves under the banner of Scientology Missions International and International Hubbard Ecclesiastical League of Pastors, otherwise known as SMI and IHEL. While in totality, theirs is a story that plays out as follows. All emanates from our organizations where Scientologists Ascending the Bridge set forth to start the cycle anew. They plant Scientology flags in communities near and far, and so rally beneath that resounding cry, I'm going to clear my zone. To precisely that end, missions provide Golden Age introductory services and auditing, from personal efficiency and life improvement to lower grades and new era Dianetics. Whereupon course graduates and case completions advance to orgs for academy training. And so the cycle repeats, with newly trained auditors establishing new groups along ever-widening frontiers, until arises a self-generating movement as those groups expand into full-blown missions, and one to the next, those missions become full-fledged orgs, and so we clear this planet. The opening account of pioneering field action reflects the first step of that cycle of expansion, namely, Scientologists ascending the bridge in orgs and stepping out to start the cycle anew. While the action can be phrased in a million ways, this tale recalls the classic piece of Chinese wisdom, dripping water penetrates the stone, meaning small but persistent efforts can eventually and will accomplish the big win. Such is the story of Scientology in Taiwan, with an ideal lord, 13 missions, and 40 groups. But just like a drop of water penetrating the stone, the next bend might be new territory waiting to be explored. Taichung, Taiwan. It's an intersection of cultural heritage and commercial progress, and stands as the pillar of central Taiwan. She is also now one of the island's fastest growing cities, attracting citizens in pursuit of material success. Yet in this land of ancient wisdom, they lose their way in the absence of practical knowledge. But illuminating the path to a higher plateau is iHelp member Karma Chang. He is one of the original Book One pioneers who helped open the nation of Taiwan, and for more than 2 decades, he has worked under the banner of iHelp, earning Power FSM 8 times over. While today, he is also solo auditing on New OT7. But that next bend in the road only appeared when his daughter, Aggie, completed her survival rundown, and determined to follow in her father's footsteps, trading a college education for academy training at Kaohsiung, and advancing through the entire Golden Age lineup to emerge as a Class 4 auditor. At which point, family dynamics align as this father-daughter duo envisions something entirely new. A group dedicated to empowering Taichung's business leaders who influence society. The group's logo is designed to reflect and integrate that purpose. 6 points representing ARC and KRC, upward arrows representing a threefold path of training, processing, and awareness, and hence the name Superior Knowledge. In perfect harmony, they secure facilities in Taichung's foremost high-tech industrial park for a March 2021 grand opening in honor of LRH's birthday. It's attended by 150 dignitaries and business leaders, with a keynote address by our very own wise legend, Bright Chow. Beyond their doors is what you might dub an ideal group. Introductory enlightenment by way of Scientology television and a full array of programs in Chinese, a bookstore with a full array, likewise in Chinese, but of course, as always, clearing begins with Book One. Consequently, they reach out to saturate their local zone into the primary commercial hub at Taichung Civic Square with a first introduction to students who will become the business leaders of tomorrow, at the night market adjacent to Taichung's National Institute of Technology, and where stress tests with a Mark 8 instantly captivates the attention of tech-savvy students. There's more at Taiwan's largest night market, more again for everyone else at Taichung's oldest park, and altogether placing a book into new public hands every 3 minutes. But now, Superior Knowledge channels those droplets of Dianetic wisdom with on-site Book One seminars to penetrate the business sector itself. In this instance, with lectures on the tone scale and its relationship to survival, followed by interactive drilling demonstrating the influence of the reactive mind, all of course concluding with an invitation to clearing. Superior Knowledge replicates that pattern across Taichung's commercial sector. Manufacturing engineers revealing the reactive mind as the true source of stress, specialty food producers and the power of smell to re-stimulate engrams, equipment suppliers, and the underlying cause of accidents, altogether enlightening more than 400 across Taichung's business landscape, and all of which drives corporate leaders, employees, and their families through the doors of superior knowledge, whereupon they are discovering terra incognita for themselves, so beginning that adventure where they will never be the same again, so reaching for and ascending that better bridge, and so unfolds the tale of how, drop by drop, superior knowledge have now tallied more than 4,000 auditing hours, in turn helping 78 to a higher plateau, all while introducing more than 800 to Dianetics and Scientology, and yes, that's your proverbial drops of water already penetrating a society, and yes, that's also an I Help Pioneer opening a new gateway to clearing for this New Year's celebration 2024. Here's a textbook example of trained auditors, clears, and OTs springing from organizations, establishing new groups to expand the perimeter of that organization. And what about all new frontiers? Meaning, lands where there is no Lord presence. Lands where pioneers plant new seeds across virgin territory, seeds that will, in the not too distant future, germinate and grow into all new organizations. Well, here starts the genesis of that cycle, now going down in the Czech Republic. Long known as the heart of Europe, she proudly stands as a gateway between countries east and west. And while she has emerged as a thriving tech hub, built on the creativity and innovations of her people, nearly half the population will tell you they suffer from job stress and family discord, and all for the simple reason they can't communicate. But bringing his nation the universal solvent is Peter Gono. He first discovered Scientology when he chanced upon an OCA test, and today he is a clear. Peter first earned his stripes as a pioneer in Bohemia's industrial center of Pilsen, establishing the field group Phenomen, from where he delivered introductory lectures, primarily anatomy of the human mind, and thereby introduced more than 1,000 to Scientology. But to fulfill his goal of a cleared country, Peter next determines to establish a full-fledged mission. He begins by signing aboard a future tech team. Owing to lack of Czech translated academy materials, all of them are multilingual so they can train abroad in English, and so become among the first Czech auditors and supervisors. Next, Peter surveys the city for mission premises, finally securing the perfect location a mere 100 feet from city center. Fast forward to the return of his 10-man Golden Age technical team, and Peter is next cutting a ribbon signifying the birth of the Zabriniska mission. The mission welcomes a cross-section of young professionals from teachers and accountants to digital animators and IT specialists. Pent-up demand from that Phenomen field immediately fills mainline grade chart services, purification with a dozen enrolled at any given time, survival rundown where 40 students are now co-auditing, lower grades and net delivered by 5 Class 5 auditors, altogether making for 250 releases, all while 17 have now attained the state of clear in ORs. But of course, as with every mission, Zabriniska is all about the on-ramps to the bridge, including introductory lectures on ARC and life improvement. Above all, the one that speaks to and cracks that Czech communication barrier is the HAS course. Moreover, it's the one where they can officially say they are a Scientologist. Even more to the point, Peter now knows exactly how to expand his zone with remote delivery in cities far and wide, and thus sowing the seeds to create new beachheads across the Republic. Field staff members are immediately activated as advanced men responsible for sign-ups and enrollment, followed by Peter and the delivery team with all materials in hand, traveling 250 miles east to the city of Aranitsa. The location is a Hotel Centrum, ideal not just for its conference facilities, but rather because Peter's requirement for enrollment is that students check in for the duration. Delivery is textbook, beginning with an orientation, namely the student's guide to acceptable behavior, followed by the 3 barriers to study and clearing of words, all of which prepares them for the fundamentals of Scientology itself, whereupon the heart of the communication course begins through a multi-day regimen spanning tier 0 to 4, with a particular emphasis on confront, including a small dose of in-your-face bull bait, at which point upper indoctrination TRs overflow onto hotel grounds, and so it continues every TR from 0 to 9, 2 times through, until when graduation arrives and certificates are handed out, it's not an end of cycle, rather it's a new field of Scientologists, as evidenced by a group springing to life to once again start the cycle anew. The pattern repeats 130 miles to the northeast at the engineering hub of Pardubice. By survey, almost 2/3 of its workers suffer from insufficient communication, but now, with attendees discovering the communication formula and the elements of confront and control, yet another new group arises on virgin Czech soil. The mission next descends 140 miles to the southeast at the hamlet of Ville-Lunetz, and so the pattern continues until altogether new groups emerge across 11 Czech towns and cities, whereupon the ground is also prepared to start another cycle anew, the cycle for continuous expansion. And hence, Peter and team are soon rallying Czech Scientologists for that next inevitable step, creating even more new missions to accommodate the burgeoning field. And they jump-started with 24 promptly stepping aboard as staff. Whereafter, this is Peter's cross-country rollout. First in the capital at Prague, where Peter builds another technical corps and cuts a ribbon on another new mission, already generating nearly 500 introductory course completions. Next, in the nation's second largest city at Brno, where another ribbon falls, and where they promptly usher better than 100 onto the bridge, while just last month in southern Bohemia, yet still another mission comes to fruition. And that's the continuing story of unending expansion with a flourishing Scientology field, establishing roots throughout the Czech Republic through 2,800 introductory lectures, generating 4 new missions and no less than 22 new groups. And yes, that's a Scientologist planting new flags to clear their zone for this New Year's celebration 2024. We now advance to a story and emphasis of the fact you need not go to virgin territory to call yourself a pioneer. As a matter of fact, you can find it along any stretch of road, or in this case, along highways traveled for millennia, whether by 2-wheeled chariots or 12-cylinder supercars. Modena, Italy. If you're looking for the quintessential Italian city, this is it. Birthplace of world premiere culinary maestros, operatic legends, and none other than Mr. Ferrari himself. Which is why it's no surprise her citizens proudly go by the motto, "We make difficult things easy." And opening the high-speed road to total freedom is the mission of Modena. She is helmed by Simonetta Borzanelli, who first entered Scientology in 1985 and soon thereafter began her lifelong mission career. While today, she is also a new OT5. But our story for tonight begins in 2020 when the streets were empty and the world stood still. Because that's when, in an Italian heartbeat, Simonetta determined to seize the moment, mapping out a plan to take her mission to ideal, all in the spirit of that iconic Modena phrase, "If you can dream it, you can do it." So in the midst of lockdowns, they designed a top-to-bottom overhaul for a total integration and transformation of all new mission spaces. And with a team of staff and volunteers, some 50 strong, they refit her with every ideal component, including all requisite seminar systems, public info center for enlightenment, and iconic signage across all 6,200 square feet. Whereupon Simonetta and her team are prepared and proud to cut a ribbon on ideal premises. All crescendos for a grand opening on the 26th of June, 2022, with crowds packing the central thoroughfare. Owing to Modena's on-the-ground work of volunteer ministers during the pandemic, a civil defense team leader extends his wishes that VM ideals continue to spread. All while a municipal officer proclaims a future holding great possibilities. After which, a ribbon cascades down before some 400 community leaders, dignitaries, and Scientologists. And all as headlines herald Modena's new ideal home. And with all pistons firing, you are looking at an engine designed to, first and foremost, drive Modena onto and up the bridge. As in, 2,800 new public introduced to Dianetics and Scientology, a course completion every other day, while on the processing side, over 2,000 purification hours, more than 5,000 total auditing hours, making for 60 Scientologists ascending the grade chart every week, and no less than 270 moving up the line to higher levels in orgs. But what especially distinguishes this ideal mission is her new civilization campaign, with the purpose of removing any and all roadblocks to widespread community clearing. And so the mission simultaneously ignites every campaign engine, fueled with volunteers from across Modena and some 20 surrounding towns. Whereafter, with every team on the starting grid, it rolls out as follows. Youth for Human Rights, given Italy counts record numbers of migrants arriving to her shores, and thus an undercurrent of discrimination, volunteers saturate city center. The Christmas market, where joyous shoppers are welcoming of a message of tolerance. The Ghirlandina Tower, where booklets land in multi-ethnic hands every 8 seconds. The Duomo, where congregations attending services at her 11th century cathedral next gravitate to pledge boards. And so it goes, with volunteers sparking a 21st century renaissance of human rights, gaining a new signature every minute, and ultimately carrying the Universal Declaration to some 50,000. Then there's the Way to Happiness, for which distribution teams ply Modena's oldest indoor market. While the city is not a hotspot for crime, she still sees her share of petty theft. Hence, the 21 precepts are welcomed all over artisan food stalls of aged vinegar and other Modena delicacies. While altogether, the mission provides 150 booklets an hour to holiday shoppers and vendors alike, for a total of 74,000 copies circulating citywide. There's more, and significantly so, for drug-free world. Considering modernist high-income scales, affluent youth readily access cocaine and assorted party drugs, so volunteers permeate modernist main square. There's more for high-end shoppers along the historic portico of the college. More again with the drug-free world presence, now as iconic as local tourist attractions, and still more permeating every other locale where public gather with a booklet into public hands every 20 seconds. At which point, to reach everyone else, Drug-Free World partners with local cinemas, whereupon it's not only Truth About Drugs displays with booklets for every moviegoer, but PSA screenings reaching 50,000 patrons every day. Combine it all, and that's how 500,000 Italians now know the truth about drugs. Finally, there is modernist force of VMs always at the ready to do something about it. Case in point, when cataclysmic flooding inundates more than 36 towns and cities across the north, Modena renders 3,500 hours of indiscriminate help. And as it plays all over airways and headlines with the tagline reading, Scientology is changing the future of this one-of-a-kind city, well, it's a future brighter than ever, especially since Modernist humanitarian campaign has now reached 1 million individuals one-on-one, amounting to no less than 23% of her regional population. And yes, that's Scientology Missions International in the name of a new civilization for this New Year's celebration 2024. With that, we come to the all-embracing view of that greatest adventure in all human endeavors, because, after all, it's one thing to chart forgotten lands or map lost continents, and quite another to vanquish reactive minds. So yet again, remembering what these numbers represent, I give you Scientology Missions International and our pioneering league of field groups. For all the talk of opening gateways in far-flung corners of this world, iHelp now extends introductory auditing across 24 time zones, from the world's oldest republic to the planet's most ancient desert, remote villages amid Arctic fjords, the southernmost capital of the Americas, the edge of civilization in Pacific rainforests, and the fastest growing metropolis on Earth. And when you add in everywhere else, in total, there are now over 500 new groups extending to the farthest reaches of humanity, making for a global field force surpassing 2,000 iHelp pioneers. Meanwhile, Scientology Missions International celebrated a chain of cascading ribbons from hemisphere to hemisphere in the United States, Spain, Australia, Georgia, Hungary, Romania, Ecuador, and Tanzania. While altogether, those missions and groups form an unbroken ring of portals to our bridge, spanning more than 100 nations, and yes, in combination, that's how SMI and iHelp ushered 3 million individuals through the entrance gates of Dianetics and Scientology for this New Year's 2024. Once again, no view of the sector is complete without a personal perspective. In this case, from those who hold wide the gates across 24,000 miles of our world. For after all, what else conveys that feeling when comes a gentle knock at the door and you welcome some being to the threshold of everlasting life? So the final word on our groups and missions I give you those who live that feeling every day, our members of I Help and Smile.
On the high clouds, cavalry for LRH, bringing Scientology into the world. You come in the field with stable data, and you orbit somebody, you give him stable data.
And that brings us to our New Year's Award celebration and what historically marks our salute to a worldwide league of power FSMs. We're going to reiterate the essentials. A field staff member represents the coalescence of all you just witnessed this evening. So whether public Scientologists, I-Help auditors and groups, SMI mission staff, or WISE members all fulfill a common purpose as field staff members. Indeed, it's the one purpose LRH bestowed on every Scientologist, to help LRH contact, handle, salvage, and bring to understanding the individual and thus the peoples of Earth. So, precisely in accord with those words, we come to this year's presentation. Each will receive that treasured Power FSM pin for escorting at least 100 people onto and up the bridge through a single calendar year. Moreover, this year is capped by FSMs who represent another milestone altogether as we honor not 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but an unprecedented 6 Scientologists as elite FSMs, which is to say, in a single calendar year, they each helped 1,000 onto and up the bridge. So, to a record 224 FSMs who personally ushered Scientologists one-on-one to a staggering 154,849 steps up the bridge, I ask that you join me in a thunderous ovation as they take this stage. Ladies and gentlemen, your awe-inspiring power and elite FSMs. And with that, we come to the culminating chapter of this New Year's review and the crucial nexus between yesterday's history and tomorrow's destiny. All of which is another way of saying we not only come to the culmination of all you have thus far seen, but also full circle from the moment I told you we are going to ignite solid rocket fuel for liftoff into 2024. Because make no mistake, this next is the one that makes all else possible, namely our ideal organizations. Of course, if you've been in one, then you already know they are a physical universe manifestation of the bridge itself. Meaning, they're designed to accommodate every level of that bridge and to propel every being right to the top. A golden age of introductory routes, a golden age of knowledge, a golden age of tech phase 2, all of them are quite literally embodied in an ideal org. But even still, there yet remains one final component to the full golden age equation. And in all truth, this final component is the linchpin. All of which is to say, it complements and amplifies all others, ultimately bringing the entire golden age to fruition. And yes, that's what launches in 2024 in the name of a golden age of administration. For all else we've heard tonight regarding LRH administrative technology for third dynamic survival and its application to any group, let's not forget that its research and development was intended for the third dynamic of Scientology. Moreover, auditing technology, as contained in HCO bulletins, and admin technology, as contained in HCO policy letters, they are a direct parallel. As but one example, when LRH announced and released the first Scientology grade chart, he concurrently announced and released the first Scientology org board. And while I could go on with example after example, you already get the point. Third dynamic admin technology creates the organization necessary for the 100% standard application of first dynamic auditing technology. And hence, keeping admin working is synonymous with keeping Scientology working. All of which returns us to the future we are creating in the name of expansion and the very substance of that phrase, not on pause. Then again, while others may speak of these last few years in terms of we lost all that time, we on the other hand can rightfully say we took advantage of all that time. And specifically with the largest training program in all our history, all to make a new breed of organizational executive, the likes of which has never been seen, and no, that is not an overstatement. First, we do not train just one or two executives for an org, rather we train a full team, at a minimum, the entire executive council. Training begins with the org executive course, the OEC. It entails a chronological study of every policy letter for every division, department, section, and unit of the entire organization, and all of it requiring star rate checkout. Moreover, the passing grade on final exam is 100%. Next, they train on the Flag Executive Briefing course, the FEBC. The course is comprised of the full Management Series volumes plus the FEBC lectures. Furthermore, the course is studied 3 times through. Needless to say, the passing grade on final exam is also 100%. Finally, these executives are also trained on the tech they will be administering. Depending on what post they hold in the organization, they have been trained as either a Golden Age Class 4 or 5 auditor, a Golden Age word clerk, a Golden Age course supervisor, or all of the above. But even more, this program also includes processing. First, advancing their case up the grade chart, followed by the false purpose rundown, and capped with superpower. Now combine it all, we are talking the executive teams who are the highest admin trained executives, the highest tech trained executives, and the highest case level executives we have ever had. And that is what is firing out across this planet for 2024. With that, let's return to right here and right now, because as I speak to you, no less than 8 teams have completed their FEBC program, both training and processing, and are now in final briefing to fire back to their orgs. All of which is to say, All of which is to say Melbourne, San Francisco, Tampa, Miami, Orlando, Denmark, London, and Edinburgh. Get ready, because here they come. But now, let's move right to the launch pad, because likewise in final briefing, our full FEBC teams for brand new ideal orgs. I already previewed one of them in our IAS anniversary last month, and yes, the 21-person FEBC executive team will soon be pulling down a ribbon for a new ideal org in Paris, France.
Viva France! Viva France!
But if you thought that was all, well, I was just holding back. So now, let's set this night on fire and blow the roof off this auditorium. Especially since even before you can say bonsoir, you'll be saying yeehaw for this one. As for the particulars, in addition to a full complement of FEBC executives for both day and foundation, another 39 of her general staff have also been in training at Flag. In full, she's manned by 140 staff, including 57 clears and OTs. Well, beyond that, all you really need to know by way of introduction is the slogan these people go by. Namely, I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. And here's the reason why. If that's an ideal org for Texas, a state dubbed a country owing to its size, then we next arrive at a city so colossal it might as well be a country. But no matter how you slice it, metaphor or reality, it's the biggest city in North America, topping even New York and Los Angeles. As for what's about to energize this organization, she too is a full complement of FEBC executives, all poised to lead a grande staff, 165 strong, including an 18-man HCO and a 55-man tech team. Beyond all that is an org that was destined for ideal a long time ago, having provided the first ever translations of the COM course, HQS, and Student Hat. So yes, viva the nation of this next ideal org. the vastness of Texas and its capital at Austin, Mexico City, and the grandeur of its valley, all of which takes us to our final destination this evening, and a majestic city where the skyline kisses the clouds.
Oh.
Then again, if it's our third of the night, this org will tell you they are second to none. And if it all sounds poetic, I assure you it is not. They are the most populous city in the Midwestern U.S. and are otherwise known as the city of big shoulders. Even more to the point is their ideal org. Her building was constructed in 1915 and is an architectural masterpiece. But for the big muscle, that's her org staff, a 13-man FEBC executive team, trained and ready to lead an org team of 138 staff, including 47 clears and OTs, with a combined staff experience of 640 years, and all of it's approved. If the turn of a calendar year is about to signify a whirlwind of ideal orgs, then it appropriately concludes in the city where the winds blow strongest. Put the final exclamation point on this year and our launch off into 2024, as in our traditional welcome to the world out there. However, if it seems I have moved on from what you've just seen, well, not quite. Because in fact, we have now arrived at the next juncture, meaning the extension of ideal orgs to broad public dissemination, and where that dissemination is ideal orgs. Moreover, if you had not previously grasped it, well, it's precisely where we've been heading ever since our Scientology ads began a decade ago. Yes, we've been telling the world there is a spiritual technology, that this is the age of answers, where they can achieve their full potential. Then again, and especially through the pandemic years, we have enlightened them to be more and to live again. Finally, and as a through line to all we have asked, curious, to which I can tell you the answer, they most certainly are. In proof, 20 million new viewers of Scientology Network. But now, enter ideal orgs. Today, it's a galaxy of 72 stars and soon to number 76. The point, not just that our doors are open to all, but that we have so many doors and they are everywhere on Earth. And thus, the next inevitable auditing command, a command to walk inside and behold an ideal org. And here it is, premiering to the first 115 million at Super Bowl 58.
You've probably heard about us. Maybe you've seen us around. And if you've ever been curious, you're not alone. Every day, millions of people ask, what is Scientology? Chances are, you're not what you expect. Here's an idea, a really smart idea. What if you just take a look? See for yourself! What if you think for yourself? Come on. For yourself. What we stand for. Our doors are open. See for yourself. People of all faiths in every corner of the world. decide for yourself.
Now that we have crisscrossed the globe, traversing every sector of LRH's technical application, revealing our global message for tomorrow, and unveiling new ideal orgs for eternity, well, we have also now closed the door on yesteryear, thus fixing our sights firmly on the glorious future ahead, and all of it in turn to say, we have now arrived at the triumphant conclusion of this evening's New Year's event. Then again, this is the moment I traditionally ask you to ponder the year ahead. But tonight, we'll do it differently, because what's there to ponder when it can all be a certainty? First, in the name of ideal facilities, we have now opened 127,953 square feet, and that's just since the IS anniversary 6 weeks ago. Next, and with no doubt whatsoever, there's all I just previewed in the name of Ideal Orgs for January, February 2024. And since we're talking numbers, that's another 377,253 square feet, and all to open in the next 6 weeks. In fact, combine it all, and it's more than 500,000 square feet open for delivery in just 12 weeks. And if you aren't breathless yet, you would be if you were me. Try one of those overnight jaunts, south, east, and north, not to mention Europe and back, all while keeping every other ball in the air. But even so, that's still not the full picture on future Ideal Orgs, because there's another 591,952 square feet already in construction, all while another 1.5 million square feet will go into construction this year. But if that's Ideal Orgs, there are also Ideal Advanced Organizations. The next one is already in construction, and the second is now in planning for construction in 2024, all to fulfill the prophecy of an OT base in every continental zone. Yet if all of that is in the name of helping build the better bridge LRH called for in Book 1, we likewise work relentlessly to provide the same for all other technologies he provided. In the name of Narconon and drug rehabilitation, you've just seen a new continental center soon to open in South Africa. Well, there are another 4 continental Narconons also moving to completion this year. Then there's Applied Scholastics for Study Technology. New campus facilities are either already in hand or being acquired, all to create continental centers in every geographic zone. Moreover, it's all just in preparation for a new golden age, soon to roll out in the name of Applied Scholastics. Yet if everything thus far is for the dissemination and application of LRH's technology, then the greater picture is the technology itself. And in that regard, what's about to roll out is nothing less than monumental. Not a new category of Golden Age, but an expansion of them all, from the long-awaited recovery of yet another introductory route to new discoveries in the Golden Age of knowledge, and that's quite in addition to new technical releases spanning the entire bridge. So once again, to reiterate, there's no need to ponder, because one's the next, you and me, our future is a certainty. Sure, the forward steps we take don't happen spontaneously. They're all the result of a lot of planning and a lot of doing. What we have in store for next year is the fruition of an abundant quantity of both of those labors. But they are a certainty. But now, let me add one more factor to all I've just rattled off in terms of the futurescape for an expanding ideal and an expanding golden age. After all, it was a fairly fast rat-a-tat listing of what's coming in the new year. And no, the factor I am speaking of is not that I could rattle it off the top of my head. Rather, it's that everything you experience this evening, everything we are working to create in the name of a better tomorrow, all of it is in the singular pursuit of a singular purpose: to move every being onto and up the bridge all the way to the top. Even more to the point, that purpose is a purpose we all have as Scientologists. Now, at this point, you may be expecting me to tell you, lend a hand, stake your ground. Yes, it's true, you should do that. And especially since the vast array of ways to contribute are everywhere you look, be it as an FSM, field group, mission, or part of the worldwide org team, or if you prefer, one of our social betterment sectors or the front lines of fourth dynamic salvage. But that's not my message for tonight. And besides, I'm quite certain there are a multitude of people outside those doors who are already going to tell you that. So instead, let's return to that purpose: to move every being onto and up the bridge all the way to the top. And with that, we have come to the heart of the matter and my final message and gift to you. Yes, I do mean you, and you, and you, all of you. Take your next step, and the next, all the way to the top. And now to help you, on that journey, it's my pleasure to present you with this gift. It comes in a pocket folder. Take your next step. Contained within is Ron's Journal 36, titled Your New Year. LRH wishes you a happy holiday season with the hope that you will take advantage of the carefully marked trail upward. Also contained in the folder is a grade chart. On the back are step-by-step instructions to map and track you upwards. The chart, of course, unfolds. Put it on your wall, or better yet, your bathroom mirror, just so you're reminded at the start of every day. The inside of the folder gives the exact targets, beginning with make your 2024 New Year postulate for total freedom. Further instructions tell you how to get started. And that's my New Year's wish for all of you. Total freedom, because in the end, it's all that matters. So there you have it, a New Year's event at the starting line of limitless horizons and infinite tomorrows. But to truly close out this evening, let this be my final closing message to ensure tonight's event is a dime. Simply, I invite you to sit back and consider how far we've come, and to likewise consider what you're now a part of. Because yes, this is a timeless moment in whole track history, and a tale that will be told and retold forever. Well, until forever, let every wristwatch in this house now start ticking again, because we're all now on the clock for that countdown to liftoff and a year for all the ages to come. Thank you, Happy New Year, and all to LRH. Okay.